3 months, or do I need to do again this split every time I change the date?
So you change.
So it's like below, yes, like below.
Yes, it has been transferred. Maybe I will put them much more in the tour, and you see that everything is linked. So if you link your task here to something, it means that everything will be transferred, but after you have to refine, in fact, the payment, because project will not know exactly how it will be split month by month. You see, it's more or less the same way to split things, but you have maybe to go. It's not maybe, it's sure that you have to change the monthly data. You see that it's more or less done. The calculation is more or less done. The first one is okay. This one is okay as well. But in November, December, we have some changes because depending of what is the delay of the task. If it is a 1 month, I think things will be transferred from 1 month completely. So you will find something more consistent in terms of rescheduling of your cash flow. So maybe you don't have to fine tune nothing because it will be okay. But maybe if you move only for 15 days or something which is not a complete month, I think then the different payment will be transferred kind of what would I say in the pro rata of number of days. I think that you have to refine things. So maybe we can make something more with a better accuracy here if I change and I will display things directly on the maybe in day. Then it will be maybe better. So I will put 0 here. Okay. And now I will put 0 here. So now the starts beginning of September. So let's go to September. Okay, so in this September we have nothing.
Yeah, because it starts on 21 and then it ends on 7th February. So if you divide by the number of days, it's probably like €1,000.
Yes, exactly. And what I want to do here, to simplify, if we put all the payment only on one day, it will be easier to manage after. Because here it's really it divides the number of euros by days, etc. So it's not exactly what we want. It would be better to make things like this, as I do, 0, 0, and I will have another payment maybe in November, so 0, and then I will maybe 20. See, well, I will not make for all the cells, but you understand. And then if we do things like this, if you move from 1 month to the other one, it will be more aligned with a monthly calendar. But of course, you have to check that we are not at the 30th of October instead of the 1st of November.
Yeah.
So it's only one day, but.
And the thing about that as well is it's almost a pretty foregone conclusion, but there's a little bit of discussion left around the fact that we are going to have to report budget reports weekly. Well, not that we have to update weekly, but it will have to be displayed as weekly requirements, not necessarily as monthly. So, yeah, I mean, that's my discussion with the team around. We're not going to update, every schedule weekly. That's crazy. So really, it may stay. The allocations may stay the same for a full month. But again, there we go. Evolution, guys. We need to. There's not much set in stone at this stage. So.
All right, Sam. But can we, under this schedule, can we add just, for example, for advisory transaction costs? Can we add milestones under this, so it actually becomes a sum? So for us, it's easier to track, or we can't touch this format at all.
So you'll see there line items, what is it, 50 to 57. Those are milestone payments that would be associated with the commercial agreements for an EPC, for example, once we know the payment milestones. We can pull those out. We can absolutely do milestones. The problem is, and this, for me personally, I think Sylvain has a different view on this. For me personally, the milestones aren't such a bad thing, but there's going to be an interplay between hundreds of milestones and just sort of like a single cost item. Which ones really need to be broken out to manage individually, and other ones that don't. So I don't think this is set in stone, Tamar. I think there is a space where we can decide how, or play around with how we want to structure this, either whether it's a single cost item or milestones like that. So again, probably some feedback from yourselves on how this works best for you, where you see the efficiencies or inefficiencies in it. This is a bit of an open area. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yes, it does. I mean, for me, the advantage of the tool is that it automates tasks.
Correct.
If I have to go and check every time I change a date by 15 days or 25 days, I have to check my cash flows because it may move by a month, and it's easier if I can just directly assign a few milestones for all my contracts and just say, and just change the start date, because I know that, I don't know, when you have a TA, it will tell you, okay, you pay me advance payment, after 2 weeks you get your draft report, and after 3 weeks you get final report. So I know my payments will flow, and it will maybe move by a week, but at least I know that if I have to move the payments by a month for whatever reason, all the move automatically, without having to go back and check if the allocation has been done properly or not,
Agreed.
And after we have to see how these payment things must be linked to some task, some detailed task here, and maybe there are some links maybe to put between some task and some payment. Not all. I understand that things are not obliged to be linked to activities here, but maybe could it simplify the management of the planning if some payments are directly linked to some task? Because if you plan to finish the eco implementation at this date, maybe will it be a trigger to start a payment of one of the payment that is scheduled? Always to have in mind that you have to really simplify the maintenance of the planning, and if you change some achievement level here and some task at the detailed level of of tasks. And after you have to do the same on the top here, it will be a lot of time. But if things are independent, we can make it. So really we have to find a path through those different constraints to have something as much simple to maintain as possible.
I think, Tamar, your example of for example, the OE is a good one of breaking it out with those time periods, which can be easily done within the budget section. So that's a good example of doing that. Others maybe not so much, like if there's maybe 2 payments in development agreements or whatever, we can rather just associate, we can cost load that in a single line item. So I believe we can use both, just where it makes sense and what's easiest to maintain. And that's pretty much up to your preference as a user. Both options are there.
Is there an ability to offset the cost from the task? So where we have variability in the invoicing period, which would obviously impact on when costs fall due in the month.
And that's also related to a governance. Sorry, Sylvain, the practicalities I'll leave it to you now, but that's also related to a governance control around the schedule, the budget, on whether we show the allocation of that cost item at the time that we receive or we validate a payment, and then not account for the commercial terms associated with that. So if it's a 30-day payment period, do we show it on the date that we verify or 30 days later in line with the commercial agreements? Again, that is another discussion that is ongoing with the corporate finance and investment team. We have posited that it makes sense for us to put it at the time that we verify an invoice or we receive an invoice or whatever. And that is something that has been followed in some of our cash flows, particularly like around Spain, Portugal, that they're happy to do that they would prefer that we just supply when that invoice is verified and received, and that they account for commercial terms. So that's pretty much looking where we are at the moment, is when it's due, but
just usability for finance, when there's different, we have some payment terms that are quite short. We've had as low as 4 days. We've had 15. We've standard 28s. Obviously, when you add all them into the mix, the impact on cash flow could add up quite a bit. And, you could have a lot of cost falling into 1 month or different months, depending on whether you take cognizance of that or not.
Yeah, I agree. And like I say, that is something that we still need to really come to agreement with the other stakeholders on that and how we want to report that. So it's a good point, Ronan, that I don't really have an answer for right now.
For actual, how to declare the actuals on task and on payment to declare to project, okay, we plan to spend this amount and here what we did. So there is an easy way to the person complete. So if the task have been if we have to spend the money exactly as we expected, so you have just to click on 100% complete and everything will be done as scheduled. So I will not do it here because it will crush my example. So really basic to do. But if you want to have a final control of payment, you can declare here in the actual line of each payment when it has been spent. Maybe here I have just a small delay, some dates delay, so just for 4 days. So it has no sense. In fact, I don't think we don't care. But if things are a little bit different as expected, you can declare things directly in the actual, and so it will work exactly the same as the rest of the achievement of task. Okay. So the rest of the task will be scheduled as planned, and just if you want to check on the report, we will see normally that we have an actual cost here, which is here. So it's not exactly displayed on the bar, but we could add this information. So we have the choice to check and to declare the actuals on the cost exactly in the same way as we do it in for the rest of the achievement of task. We can make things simple, and we can make things more fine, I would say, to say, okay, we plan to spend this money, okay, it's done. And it's done exactly as expected. So when we do this, okay, but you don't have to go more into details for that.
Sam, a quick question about that. Are we going to team of what has been paid and so we can update it?
You broke up there.
Yeah, I'm asking if we are going to get a sort of monthly report or bi-weekly report from the finance team regarding what has been paid and for which project, or do we have to track manually and then give phone calls?
You guys are asking me all those questions that it is, again, I don't have an answer for you, and the reason is because it is a known problem, as you all know, but it is a known problem within corporate finance at the moment as well, on drafting those reports of actual payments. There is currently, Siobhan is working on that, on a system. There are some, not completely manual, but some reports that can be issued every 2 weeks on payments that are in process, not necessarily paid. So again, Tamar, no, I don't have a full answer for you because it's still being, the gap is trying to be closed in the background and they aren't there yet. But that is 100% on the radar at the moment. It is a huge problem.
Thanks.
Okay, so I check about.
Sorry, my apologies. Sorry, Tamar, just following on from that. So just to be clear, we have noted it to everybody from the GOT down, all the stakeholders that, you know, we cannot be responsible for cash flow if we don't know the actuals. And obviously that's the question you're asking. But we have made it very clear, like if you want an accurate cash flow, you can't be putting it on the execution, the PM, unless they have all the correct information. So until that is in place, we cannot verify and we cannot be held responsible entirely. I'm not saying completely, entirely for the cash flow being accurate. Yes, so that's your turn now.
Okay, so for about the program that we plan to discuss today, this training, we reached the end of what was planned. So I don't know if you have some additional question regarding everything what we said today. You want to go further in some of the items. I think there is a lot of information to understand and maybe to retry by yourself by using the support and the test environment where you are really allowed to make your own projects and continue to play with the tool. Okay, so let's listen to maybe additional question and.
Just prior to any technical questions, just to put everything in context, I will be sending out very shortly next steps. So we were waiting for the training to deploy a lot of other items. So next steps in yourselves regarding the projects that are from Dev Phase 1 and above, and creation of these schedules for all those projects. I will be sending out, like I said, what now? What do we do once we've had this training? Creation of those schedules from the PPM, setting up those schedules, project specific, kind of putting it in the context of the most priority driven projects that we're looking at the moment. So absolutely, the training is the functional side of it, but the actual deployment, how we want to go about it, and the priority of it, I will get back to you in the next day or two on next steps. Otherwise, if you have any questions for Sylvain.
Would it be possible to get a ground up sample complete with all the cache in it, just for us to play around with it, just to understand how it works?
Yeah.
Easier than trying to build it ourselves.
No. That's I'm doing all the templates, and you and I have sat and pulled. I need about another 20 minutes to finalize Island, and I will send it through. Yeah, it'll be done tomorrow, not today. Tomorrow.
Oh, cool. It was really good. First half was really good, particularly on the intro. I think the cash flow is a bit, for my head, struggling a bit in terms of the messing we have to do to fix cash flow every month, and doing that along with the program is complicated, you know.
From my side, yes, it's not entirely intuitive, and I think the difficulty with that is because it's not 100% fixed on how we do it. Not just because we don't know, but because it is also up to users' functionality, how you would like to work, how you would like to manage it yourself. It obviously does need to fit within the sort of the sphere of the reports that we're generating from that, but that's all possible. So yeah, it is a little bit rodent, and I think that's one of those things where using it and then also just finding your own effective way of using it are sort of the next steps on that. But again, you won't be left to your own devices immediately. Like you say, I can send you something through tomorrow. We can sit together and do that, figure out a way.
Yeah.
It's not a problem.
Like the win for us is that we just manage the program and it just spits out the cash flow. The concern would be that it creates another body of work in terms of you fix up your program and you manage your program, and then you have a whole other body of work to tidy up the cash flow.
Yeah.
So that that would be the worry, you know.
Yeah, and legit, and that is sort of interplay between what we can and can't do, and what's viable and what's not viable. So yeah, agreed. We'll sit and figure that out individually. Like I said, I think it's each person's way that they're going to prefer to work. So we'll figure that out. Well, that's it from our side.
Okay.
Anything more? Yeah. Sylvain, do you want to close up for us?
No, for me it's okay as well. So if you have some more question, we can, or if you have later some question, of course you can as well. So I hope that things were clear during this meeting. So if you have some improvement advices for the next session that we will have, we are listen at your recommendation for that, because your colleagues in different countries will also have the same meeting. So if you have some advices about what part of the training should be maybe longer or faster, or I don't know, we are open to your suggestion for that.
And also with regards to feedback on once you start using the tools, as I say, your feedback is priority number one for us to evolve this tool. I will be creating a suggestion box really in one of the channels for each country. So over time you can start filling that up with thoughts and comments and suggestions. So that'll be coming out. And also I've uploaded the project, the PowerPoints that Sylvain's just done. I've uploaded that into this chat for this meeting, and the recordings are there. I don't know if anybody knows how to rename recordings, but if I can, I will. But otherwise, they're all in the files section for this channel as well, for this meeting. Okay, is that it, everyone? Are we done for the day?
I think it's
Overwhelmed?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
And Paul, we'll get back to you on what we can do then.
Okay, perfect.
Cool. Right, everybody, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.